beautiful, and welcome back to this Fast Forward Sunday for another episode of Beautiful, I Am Colored. My name is Evelyn, and I am the host of this podcast, creator of this podcast, as well as the author of the book titled Beautiful, I Am Colored, which is still available on my website at beautifuliamcolored.com. So, the clocks have moved forward an hour ahead. And this whole week, honestly, I've been thinking about time and time in different respects. Time that, I might feel has been wasted on some things or some people. How fast time is moving. I'm not sure if it's just me or if you listeners are experiencing the same thing, or if it's just the fact that this comes with age and getting older. Since I'm on the other side of 45 now, not quite sure if that's all of the above or if it's just in my imagination. But it does seem to be that time is indeed moving so quickly. It reminded me of an old soap opera. Do they call them soap operas still? I don't even know. I know that's like a whole throwback 80s term. But it reminded me of a soap opera nonetheless. And it was a very popular one with an iconic voice behind it. And it was the intro to the soap opera Days of Our Lives, where the announcer, before it comes on and before you hear the orchestra start playing good, he says, like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. And I was thinking to myself, how profound, like sand through the hourglass. And when you think about how sand filters through once you flip it over, it seemingly moves quickly, but each grain has to go through, and there's only so many grains, that can go through the very smallest part of the timekeeper thingy. I forget what those are called, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And I was just thinking through, wow, things are moving fast, like little pellets of sand, but at the same time, it's not all done until all the sand filters through the bottom, and then you start over. And it just really got me to thinking about some things. And sometimes when life is moving fast like that and things get a little bit hard, it makes us feel like, or I should say, let me talk about myself, because y'all know I tend to do that a lot on here from my own experience. This past week, it's always everybody's fault. You know what I'm saying? Stuff on the job is not what it need to be. Folk ain't being right and acting right. And the outcome, not getting the outcomes, that I necessarily would think would be ideal. But of course, that's a biased opinion. Feel like I can't stay on top of the kitchen every time I look around, because, when you start cooking a lot, that means you got to clean the kitchen a lot. I feel like every time I look around, I'm cleaning the kitchen 2 or 3 times a day. I can't keep up on top of that. And just feeling frustrated and projecting onto other people. But before I go too much deeper in the topic of it's all you, it's you all day, every day, before I get into that, let me just ground us and let me start with shout outs and thank yous for this week, or last week, I should say. And if you're new here, shout outs and thank yous is a segment of my podcast where I shout out a person, place, thing, or idea for which I am grateful. And so this week, I have 2. And I'm going to shout out. The first one is this weather. I think I shouted weather out last week, but y'all, when we get a break from the snow, because for other people in the country, when their springtime comes, you get rain. But in Denver, I've learned in almost 8 years of living here, you typically get the spring snow instead of rain, and that's your precipitation. And in between that though, you get these gorgeous sunny field days, highs, mid 50s, mid 60s. And because the sun is right on your dome, the 65 can feel like 72, 3 maybe in some other parts of the country. And so I've had a time to just sit out there in the sun and enjoy me some good old weather, and I'm so grateful. The second thing that I'm thankful for is music. I've shared before with you that music is one of my channels. Singing, of course, and in particular when I'm trying to tap in is gospel music, or inspirational music, if you will. But typically it's gospel when I'm tapping in and channeling to get a message. And I'm just so thankful because yesterday, I woke up and I was feeling myself moving to a certain place, a low place. Let me just keep it real with you, a low place. And I was like, you know what? And because when you know what to do, you just have to go to what you know to do. You know what I'm saying? You can't make up excuses about it. It's not anybody else's fault. You just got to do the business. And so, sometimes depending on how low you are will depend on how much time you have to do to bring yourself back up. So, for example, the whole week I was kind of feeling low. And then yesterday morning, it was kind of at an all-time high. So I did a very long workout. I did an 1.5 hour long workout early morning yesterday. And of course I work out to music. And then I listened to some old songs I'm talking about from 24, 25, 26, 30 years ago of gospel hits that I haven't heard in quite some time, but that really fueled me and gave me what I needed. And I did that for a good 2 hours straight. Then I sat out in the sun. And so my point is, because I don't need to go into full detail, the point is you are responsible for doing what you need to do to bring yourself back up to what people call center, or what some other people might call normal, for whatever that is. And, I did that and I just felt so much better. Had an amazing day after the fact. Spent some quality time with Marlon. We had the house to ourselves for a couple hours. A few hours yesterday, and it was just so good. And so I'm so thankful. Music and sunshine. Okay, so jumping back into today's topic, it's you all day, every day. And I kind of alluded to this, and sharing with you in the shout outs and thank you segment about, what I did yesterday, Saturday, to kind of pull myself out of a rut. And the funny part about it is all this week, or last week, I should say, the little stuff was just getting on my last nerve. You feel what I'm saying? The email that don't make no sense, or the question that, even though there are no dumb questions, still when you're in a rut, even the questions that are important to somebody else, might not be as important to you. So it was just every little small thing, including like how I was telling you, washing them dishes, even though it's work that has to be done. And, the funny part about it is that when moments like that come, it's really hard to stop and pause if you haven't trained yourself. I've done years now of training myself to where I know when I get like that, the ending result is you need to go into your bathroom or go into your little vanity drawer, whatever you got, and pull out a mirror and talk to yourself and ask yourself what the hell is going on. And it's up to you to fix it. I realize that this is not an easy task to do. And I'm not stressing that it is easy, but nonetheless, we have to take responsibility for where we are and the role that we play in certain things. It is nobody's fault. It's nobody else's fault. It ain't your husband, your wife, your significant other's fault. It ain't your kids' fault. It ain't the dishes' fault, the email fault, your coworker, your supervisor, whatever the case may be. Those are all contributing factors, yes. But at all times, it is still you. And so I had to take a look at myself this week and was just like, chick, what is you doing? Like, yes, I did say, what is you doing? Because that's how I talk to my other self. And I was like, girl, what is you doing? Like, you're around here moping and stuff, acting like, it's the end of days around this piece. To some, it may feel that way, but we are not in the end of days. And I was just feeling, a certain kind of way about myself. And I'm not saying that there aren't times where we all experience lulls, because it is the ebbs and flow of life. I acknowledge that. But when you are trying to press to that next thing, you're trying to get to that next thing. And by next thing, let me be clear. I'm talking about the version of yourself that you are becoming. This is the person I always talk about at the end of my podcast when I say remember the future you is waiting on you. This is what I'm talking about here. And so when there is conflict and pressure and obstacles that seemingly are forcing you to stay stagnant into where you no longer want to be, those are the moments where you do have to take that look in the mirror and you have to say, okay, you know what, Evelyn, you're right. Because Evelyn talks to Evelyn. You know what, Evelyn, you're right. Child, you need to get your ass up. You need to do what you need to do. And you need to push forward. You need to push forward. You have no choice. You have no choice. Because the only choice is to remain where you are. You see what I'm saying? And so if you want to, in fact, make a difference, if you want to, in fact, be different, do something, you have to get up and you have to do. And that means doing the work, consistently. And it is not, again, I cannot stress this enough. It's simple in concept, right? It's easy for me to say that, but it's not easy in actual application because it takes a lot of discipline and it takes a lot of consistency and a lot of self-driving and self-motivation and perseverance and all of the words that are really, really sexy when you say them. But when you are actually doing them, I can assure you that they are not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And so that's where I found myself this week. And the other piece that came to me was like, just asking myself, like, why am I just giving my power over to little stuff? Clearly, I'm letting a couple go today, but that's what it is. You feel me? This is just what it is today. Why am I just, giving over power to stuff that actually, in the grand scheme of things, really just don't matter? You want to know why they don't matter? I'll tell you why. Because they're not contributing to any of your successes. Not really. If you really think about it, here's how I know that. Because can you actually change those things? Most of you probably are going to say no. Now, if you are in a position to change those things, then you know what you got to do, right? Because there are instances where we are locked and armed with the power to make and implement a change. That's different. I'm talking about all of the things that really you have virtually no control over, and you have to let those things go. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, it can become difficult to let things go, right? Because sometimes we just want to hold on to the anger because it's fueling, a part of us that needs to die. Not die in physical death, but a part of us that needs to no longer be a part of our essence or our existence. And sometimes because we have become acquainted with it, even if it's on a certain cadence or frequency, meaning every other month, every quarter I go through this, that kind of stuff, it is still tagging along. And that's a sign that something needs to change in order for that to no longer exist and be a part of you. And to really, transform into the you are becoming. And so, I just wanted to share that with you this week, of course, in the hopes that it will bring you hope and healing, but just having a moment of transparency as I try my best to do on this podcast each and every week that I share. So just remember that it is you all day, every day, and it's up to you to do that work. And it is hard, yes. But for where we're headed, and by we, I mean myself included, and I mean all of the we's. However you define we when I say it, and whatever sits in your spirit, that's what I'm talking about. It is up to all of us to do the individual work that we need to do to get to where we need to be. And the sooner we can do that and resolve that within self, the sooner we can see the change that we have so longed to see. Okay, that is all that I have within me to give for this week. I am praying that each and every one of you have a blessed week, a productive work week. For those of you who are returning to work, whether it is in the office, traditional work, or whether it is creative work, or if you are a stay-at-home parent. I just pray your strength. I pray for grace. I pray for the ability to recognize when it's you that needs to take a look in the mirror, which, hint, it's always, and that you are only in control of you and you have the power to change you. And that, in fact, will impact other things around you, people, places, and things. So until next time, beautiful, remember, the future you is waiting on you. Have a great week, everyone.